What if the man accused of assassinating Robert F. Kennedy wasn't the real killer? Or, wasn't even fully conscious when he pulled the trigger? In the early hours of June 5, 1968, the hopes of a nation were shattered in the crowded kitchen pantry of the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. Robert F. Kennedy, the younger brother of President John F. Kennedy and a rising Democratic presidential candidate, had just finished celebrating his victory in the California primary. Moments later, he was shot multiple times at close range. A young Palestinian man named Sirhan Sirhan was apprehended at the scene, gun in hand, an open and shut case, or so it seemed. But as years passed, questions began to emerge. Eyewitnesses reported inconsistencies, forensic evidence raised red flags, and whispers of a deeper conspiracy started circulating, one that still lingers over half a century later. Who really killed Robert F. Kennedy, and why? Sirhan Sirhan, a 24-year-old immigrant from Jerusalem, admitted to the shooting almost immediately. His supposed motive? RFK's support for Israel. In his notebook, police found rambling entries about Kennedy's death, and a strange repeated phrase, "RFK must die." During the trial, Sirhan appeared dazed and distant. He was sentenced to death, later commuted to life in prison, and the public accepted the story. But many researchers, journalists, and even members of the Kennedy family weren't convinced. Start with the location of the fatal shots. The coroner, Dr. Thomas Noguchi, found that the fatal bullet entered behind Kennedy's right ear, fired at near point-blank range, no more than an inch away. Yet every witness placed Sirhan in front of Kennedy. None said he got behind the senator. In fact, RFK's own bodyguard, Thane Eugene Caesar, was standing directly behind him at the moment of the shooting. So, Thane Eugene Caesar was a security guard with, some controversial views, and he had drawn his weapon that night. But unlike Sirhan, Caesar was never thoroughly investigated. He claimed he sold the gun he carried that night, but when the FBI later traced it, they found inconsistencies. Still, Caesar was dismissed from suspicion, despite being in the exact position from which the fatal shot was fired. Then there's the issue of, the number of bullets. Sirhan's revolver could only hold 8 rounds, but many witnesses reported more than 8 shots being fired. Some said they heard as many as 12 or 13. Audio evidence recorded on a reporter's tape, analyzed decades later, seemed to confirm this, at least 13 distinct gunshots, with some coming so close together that they must have come from more than one gun. Yet official reports dismissed these claims. The LAPD declared that only 8 shots were fired and matched all of them to Sirhan's gun. But, critics argue the evidence was manipulated. The crime scene was chaotic, and within just a few hours, key evidence began to vanish. Walls with bullet holes were removed and destroyed before any thorough analysis could take place. Photos taken by witnesses disappeared, and the LAPD's own files were sealed for 20 years. Why? What were they hiding? Some believe the assassination was orchestrated by forces far more powerful than Sirhan Sirhan. One theory, involves elements of the CIA. RFK had made powerful enemies, within the intelligence community, organized crime, and even inside the government itself. He had vowed to investigate his brother's assassination and reopen the Warren Commission. If elected president, RFK could have unraveled secrets that many wanted to remain buried. Another layer of intrigue comes from Sirhan's own mental state. Over the years, he claimed he had no memory of the shooting. Hypnosis experts and psychiatrists who examined him testified that he may have been in a trance-like state, possibly hypnotized. In fact, some researchers argue that Sirhan was a Manchurian candidate, a programmed assassin triggered to act without conscious awareness. During hypnosis sessions decades later, Sirhan reacted violently when given certain cues, almost as if someone had implanted commands in his mind. His notebook ramblings, the repeated phrases, and his dazed demeanor all fed into this theory. Could he have been brainwashed? This idea might seem like science fiction, but during the Cold War the CIA's real-life MK-Ultra program conducted experiments in mind control, using drugs, hypnosis, and psychological manipulation on unsuspecting citizens. If Sirhan was one of those subjects, he might have been used as a pawn, a distraction, while the real killer delivered the fatal shot. There's also the troubling fact that RFK was shot in a campaign season rife with tension. Just 2 months earlier, Martin Luther King Jr. had been assassinated. The country was torn apart by war, civil rights unrest, and political division. RFK offered hope, a unifying figure with the power to win the presidency and possibly change the course of American history. But that very hope made him a threat. Some suspect, a coordinated effort to prevent him from reaching the White House, a plot executed not by a lone gunman but by individuals embedded in law enforcement intelligence and other shadowy corners of power. To this day, Sirhan Sirhan remains imprisoned. In recent years, even 2 of RFK's own children have spoken publicly, calling for a reinvestigation. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. visited Sirhan in prison and concluded that he did not kill his father. He called the official story a lie. Despite these efforts, appeals for a new trial have repeatedly been denied. The state maintains that the evidence is clear, yet the questions remain, unanswered, unresolved, and honestly, pretty unsettling. So, who really killed Robert F. Kennedy? Was it truly a troubled young man acting out of political rage? Or was he just a scapegoat, caught in a web of deeper secrets? The truth lies somewhere in that crowded pantry, in the echoes of gunshots, in the destroyed evidence and the silenced voices. And until that truth is fully uncovered, the mystery of Robert F. Kennedy's assassination will continue to haunt history as one of the most chilling what-ifs of the 20th century.